Hey, Dan Passarelli here. Well, this is the big week. We made it through today, and not just made it through today, but the market was up 1.4%, the S&P 500, and so was every major index. So, why the big hubbub? Well, a lot of times we see this buying going into a big number, and a lot of times, uh, well, sometimes anyway, we see some follow through after the number, and sometimes we see some pullback after the number. So tomorrow, we're going to get CPI. And that's sort of the final little bit of data that the Fed gets before they make their big decision on Wednesday. And Wednesday is the really big day. There's about a 75% chance that the Fed will raise interest rates 50 basis points. But as soon as that news comes out, everything changes. We get into the after effect is what I'm calling it. That's when Powell's going to speak, and nobody's really had any time or wherewithal to really talk about what happens after that. So it's kind of like this game ends and a whole new game begins, and that is going to be really important. Now, all that said, a couple of things. First of all, because people haven't really given it that much thought, and from my observation, I think that it could be a little bit of a sobering awakening. Like, yes, our problems are not solved with a lot of the stocks, including the S&P 500 itself, but a lot of the stocks in the S&P 500 are down below their 200-day moving average, which acts as a strong support level. As you can see on the chart here, it's been below it since May. It's kind of kissed it a couple of times and then always ended up falling back down below it. And I think that there's a pretty good chance that the market, both fundamentally and technically, could have a hard time rising above, well, rising very much, let's just say. Okay. Even if it makes it through the 200-day moving average, we got strong resistance at $420 a share, which is where I sold some covered calls today in Spider. And what a covered call is, especially in a market like this, is it's a way to sell stocks at their highs, right? I waited until the end of the day here. I wasn't going to sell them when the market was pretty close to unchanged, but with the market up 1.5%, that's when I jumped in and I sold those covered calls. I'm not necessarily saying that I think this is going to be the high. I think that depending on how the number goes tomorrow, we could go higher. Depending on what happens, if they raise it 50 basis points, the market could go higher. But then when Powell speaks, then things change. So I believe that tomorrow, especially if the market's up still, is a great opportunity to sell covered calls, possibly as an exit strategy. And then there might be the opportunity to sell puts and generate further income and buy them back. Now, if any of this is new to you, I'm having a webinar, an online training tomorrow night. And it's all on this, what I call the recycle trade, which is covered calls and cash secured puts. And I think right now is a really important time to have this kind of stuff down. Go to markettaker.com/reg and get registered for tomorrow's online training. This is Dan Passarelli, Trade Smart.